It's 6 a.m. The city is still quiet, but inside a small apartment, a man sits at his kitchen table. His coffee has gone cold. His hands keep fidgeting with the cup, but his eyes are somewhere else, lost in a storm of thoughts. Work deadlines, family responsibilities, regrets from yesterday, worries about tomorrow. His body is sitting still, but inside, it feels like he's stuck in rush hour traffic with no way out. And if we're honest, isn't this all of us? From the moment we wake up, our minds rarely rest. Thought after thought piles up until it feels like we're carrying a backpack filled with heavy stones. We drag it through the day without even realizing how much it weighs us down. This invisible burden doesn't just exhaust the mind, it steals our presence, our joy, and sometimes even our health. The strangest part? We often don't even notice it happening, because being lost in thought feels so normal. But here's the paradox. The more we try to control every detail of life, the more restless we become. We think planning every step will give us security, but instead, it ties us tighter to our worries. It's like clutching sand in your hands. The harder you grip, the faster it slips away. So what happens if, just for a moment, we stop chasing, stop controlling, stop clinging to every thought? What happens if we dare to step out of the traffic in our minds? Buddhism offers a profound yet practical answer. And in this video, we'll explore a timeless teaching that shows us how letting go, even just a little, can change everything about the way we live, breathe, and experience happiness. And stay with me until the end, because there is one special lesson hidden in plain sight that might shift the way you see your own life forever. Before we dive in, if this message resonates with you, even just a little, take a moment to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, or share this with someone you love. It's a small action, but it's also a way of saying, yes, I want to carry less weight and help others do the same. And from the bottom of my heart, that support means the world, because together we spread wisdom that the world deeply needs. Now, let's begin. 1. The second arrow. The suffering we create ourselves. Have you ever noticed how sometimes life throws something painful your way, and instead of just feeling that pain, your mind makes it even heavier? The Buddha had a very beautiful way of describing this. He called it the second arrow. Imagine this. The first arrow is life itself. It's the unexpected phone call with bad news. It's the illness you didn't ask for. It's the loss of someone you love. That pain is real. It hurts, and there's nothing shameful in feeling it. But here's what usually happens. Right after that first arrow strikes, our mind picks up another arrow and stabs us again. This second arrow is made of thoughts like, why me? This isn't fair. I'll never recover from this. And suddenly, what was once just pain turns into suffering. It's like pouring salt into an open wound. The hurt doubles, triples, sometimes stays with us for years, not because of what happened, but because of the story we keep telling ourselves about it. I remember a time when I lost someone very dear to me. The grief was already deep. But what made it almost unbearable was not just the loss itself. It was my mind repeating, you should have done more. You should have said this. You'll never be whole again. That was the second arrow. And I was the one pressing it deeper into my own heart. The Buddha's wisdom is so practical here. He wasn't saying, don't feel pain. No pain is part of being alive. What he was showing us is that suffering isn't always inevitable. We can choose not to fire that second arrow. Think about it this way. You can't always control the first arrow. Life will bring change, loss, sickness, disappointment. But you do have a choice about the second one. You don't have to keep stabbing yourself with thoughts that add more pain. Instead, when pain arrives, you can pause. You can breathe. You can notice the voice in your head saying, "This is too much. This shouldn't be happening." And gently you can whisper back, "This is just the second arrow. I don't need to add this extra weight." This isn't easy. It takes practice. But every time you notice the second arrow, you create space for healing. You give yourself permission to feel pain without drowning in suffering. The Buddha once said, "Pain is certain, suffering is optional." Those words hold incredible power because they remind us we are not helpless. Even in the hardest moments, there is a place of freedom inside us. So here's something you can try. The next time life throws a first arrow at you, maybe it's a harsh word from someone, maybe it's a plan falling apart, maybe it's something much deeper. Just notice your first reaction. Notice if your mind is picking up that second arrow. And if it is, set it down. Remind yourself, the first arrow is enough. I don't need to shoot myself again. What happens then is almost magical. You'll find that while pain still visits you, it doesn't stay as long. It doesn't weigh as much. And slowly, step by step, you'll discover a deeper resilience, a softer compassion for yourself, and a calmer way of living. Because in the end, life will always bring arrows. But the second arrow, that one is always in your hands. 2. Awareness. You are not your thoughts. Have you ever felt trapped inside your own head? Like your thoughts were running wild, pulling you in every direction, and no matter how hard you tried, you just couldn't turn them off? I've been there, lying awake at night, replaying every mistake, walking into a new day, already carrying yesterday's worries. It's exhausting, isn't it? Buddhism offers us a simple, yet deeply powerful reminder. You are not your thoughts. Let me share an image that changed the way I see my own mind. The Buddha taught that our thoughts are like clouds. They drift in, they drift out. Some are light and harmless, like summer clouds. Others are dark, heavy, and stormy. But here's the truth. No matter how big or heavy those clouds look, the sky itself is never harmed. Your mind, your true awareness, is that sky. Vast. The problem is, most of us forget this. We mistake ourselves for the clouds. We identify with every passing thought, every anxious story, every judgment. So when a dark thought appears, we believe it defines us. When worry shows up, we assume we are that worry. And in doing so, we become prisoners of our own thinking. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, Sarah. She used to struggle with constant anxiety. Every morning, her mind would bombard her with thoughts. You're not good enough. You'll mess this up. What if something goes wrong today? Those thoughts felt so real, so personal, that she believed them. And because she believed them, they shaped her entire day. But then she discovered mindfulness meditation, rooted in Buddhist practice. She began to just sit quietly for a few minutes each day, observing her thoughts, not pushing them away, not fighting them, just watching. At first, it was frustrating. Her mind kept chattering. But slowly, she realized something. If she could watch her thoughts, that meant she wasn't the thoughts themselves. She was the watcher, the awareness, the sky. And once she made that shift, everything began to change. Those anxious voices still came, but they no longer ruled her. She could say, here's the cloud of self-doubt. It will pass. And eventually, it did. This is the freedom the Buddha pointed us toward. Peace doesn't come from controlling every single thought. That's impossible. Peace comes from realizing we don't have to become those thoughts. Think about how liberating that island. The angry thought doesn't make you an angry person. The fearful thought doesn't make you weak. The judgmental thought doesn't mean you're unkind. They are just clouds passing through the vast sky of your mind. The practice, then, is awareness. When a thought arises, simply notice it. Label it gently, worrying, planning, remembering, and then let it drift away, just like a cloud carried by the wind. It sounds simple, but it's powerful, because every time you practice this, you loosen the grip of those thoughts. You stop being dragged around by them, and you open the door to a deeper kind of peace. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." This is exactly what awareness gives us. It roots us in the here and now, where life is actually happening. So next time your mind feels heavy with thoughts, remember the sky. Step back, breathe, and watch the clouds come and go. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it all. And in that awareness, you'll discover a freedom that no thought can ever take away. 3. Beginner's mind, returning to innocence. Do you remember the first time you experienced something completely new? Maybe the first snowfall you ever saw, or the first time you heard a piece of music that gave you goosebumps, or even the first time you held a newborn baby in your arms. In those moments, the world feels fresh, alive, almost magical. There are no labels, no judgments, no comparisons, just pure wonder. The Buddha often pointed us back to this state of openness, what in Zen tradition is called beginner's mind. It's the kind of mind that doesn't assume it already knows. It doesn't reduce life to habits or fixed ideas. It simply looks with curiosity, like a child seeing snowflakes for the very first time. The challenge is, as adults, we lose touch with this. We've seen so much. We've built up opinions, categories, and expectations. We walk past a flower and think, "Oh, just another flower." We meet someone and immediately label them friendly, difficult, important, unimportant. We look at the sunrise and say, "I've seen it before." And in that moment, the magic is gone. Not because life lost its beauty, but because our mind stopped seeing it. Let me share a story. A man once came to the Buddha and asked for the secret to happiness. Instead of giving a long lecture, the Buddha simply picked up a flower and held it silently. Most people in the crowd were confused, but one disciple smiled deeply because he saw the flower as if for the very first time. Fresh, alive, beyond words. That's beginner's mind. It's not about ignoring your experience or pretending you don't know anything. It's about loosening your grip on certainty. It's about meeting each moment with openness instead of assumption. I once met a woman named Linda who had spent years traveling to beautiful places around the world. She had pictures of mountains, temples, oceans. Yet she confessed something surprising. She said, "I've been everywhere, but I've stopped really seeing." Her eyes were full of experiences, but her heart was numb. So she began a small practice. Each morning, she chose one ordinary thing, a cup of tea, the sound of birds, even her own breath, and tried to look at it as if it were brand new. At first, it felt forced, but slowly, she started to notice details she had always overlooked. The steam rising from the cup, the way sunlight touched the leaves, the subtle rhythm of her breath. And with that, a quiet joy returned. This is the gift of beginner's mind. It brings back freshness to the ordinary. It reminds us that life isn't stale, only our way of seeing has grown dull. The Buddha taught that clinging to fixed ideas creates suffering. When we assume, we stop being curious. When we label, we stop listening. When we think we already know, we close the door to wonder. But when the mind is clear, like a calm lake, the world reflects back its beauty. A simple smile from a stranger can touch us. The sound of rain can feel like music. Even the challenges in our life can be met with openness. What can this moment teach me? So, how do we return to this childlike innocence? You don't need to travel to exotic places or wait for something extraordinary. You can start right now. Pick one small thing around you, the way your hands feel, the breath moving in and out, the colors in the room. Pause. Look at it without labeling. Let it be fresh, just as a child would. Over time, this simple practice softens the heart. It dissolves the heaviness of routine, and it opens a doorway to peace, gratitude, and awe right here in the middle of ordinary life. Because in truth, every sunrise is a first sunrise. Every breath is a first breath. And every moment, if we meet it with beginner's mind, is a chance to fall in love with life all over again. 4. Balance. Thoughts as tools, not masters. There's a man named Daniel. On the outside, he looks successful, a good job, a stable life. But every night, when he lays down to rest, his mind doesn't stop. Endless thoughts race through his head. What if I fail tomorrow? Did I say the wrong thing today? What if everything I've worked for falls apart? It's as if his thoughts are running the show, and he's just a prisoner inside his own head. Maybe you know that feeling too. The Buddha taught something profoundly simple, yet life-changing. Our thoughts are not the enemy, but they are also not the master. They are tools, nothing more. Think of a knife. In the hands of a skilled cook, it creates nourishing meals. In careless hands, it can wound. The knife itself is neutral. It's the use that makes the difference. Our thoughts are just like that. When we let them run wild, they cut us. They create fear, regret, worry, and endless what-ifs. But when we use them skillfully, thoughts become bridges guiding us toward solutions, creativity, and wisdom. The Buddha called this the middle way, not rejecting thoughts completely, not drowning in them either, but knowing when to engage and when to let go. I remember a friend who was facing a big decision about changing careers. He spent weeks trapped in analysis, going over every scenario in his head. The more he thought, the more confused he became. It was like trying to see clearly in a storm. Finally, he decided to stop. He took a few days off, went hiking in silence, and just allowed his mind to rest. And then, in that quiet space, the answer became clear. Not because he forced it with thinking, but because he gave space for wisdom to arise. That's the secret. Thinking is useful, but only when it serves clarity, not when it becomes noise. The Buddha once said, "Rule your mind, or it will rule you." Those words are a reminder that mastery doesn't mean shutting down thoughts, but guiding them like a rider guides a horse. So, how do we practice this balance? Here's something simple you can try. When you notice your mind racing, pause and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? If it's helping, use it like a tool plan. Create, solve. If it's hurting, put it down. Breathe. Step into silence. Silence is not empty. It's full of clarity, full of peace. Over time, you'll notice something powerful. The mind becomes quieter. Thoughts arise, but they don't dominate. They come when needed, and they leave when not. Like clouds drifting across a vast sky. This balance is freedom, because you no longer live as a servant to every thought. You live as the master of your own mind. Daniel, the man I told you about at the beginning, eventually learned this. Through meditation and mindfulness, he discovered that he didn't need to fight his thoughts nor follow every single one. He learned to choose. And with that choice came peace. You see, life isn't about erasing thinking. It's about remembering what the Buddha showed us. Thoughts are powerful tools, but dangerous masters. The middle way is knowing when to use them and when to lay them down. So the next time your mind feels noisy, remember, the knife can cut or it can nourish. The choice is in your hands. 5. Beyond the self. When the I dissolves. There's a moment in life when you pause long enough and you start to wonder, who am I, really? Not the name you were given. Not the job title on your business card. Not even the story you've been telling yourself about who you are. When we strip those things away, what's left? I remember a time when I asked myself this question deeply. It was after a season of feeling lost, juggling responsibilities, trying to meet expectations, wearing a dozen masks to please everyone around me. On the outside, I seemed fine, but on the inside, I felt like a stranger to myself. That's when I came across one of the Buddha's profound teachings. The self we cling to is not a solid thing. It's only a collection of memories, thoughts, and labels we've picked up along the way. And when thinking slows down, when the chatter of the mind softens, this so-called self begins to dissolve. At first, that idea scared me. I thought, if the self disappears, what's left? Isn't that emptiness? But the more I practiced sitting in silence, the more I realized it wasn't emptiness in the painful sense. It was vastness, a quiet presence that didn't need a name. It felt like standing at the edge of an ocean, with no boundaries, no walls, just openness. Buddhism calls this liberation, the freedom from being trapped in the tight box of me, mine, and my story. Think about it. How much of our suffering comes from defending this I? We get angry because someone disrespects me. We get anxious because my future is uncertain. We get jealous because my worth feels compared. But what if that me is not as real as we think? When we loosen the grip on our identity, we begin to breathe differently. We stop taking everything so personally. Life flows, and we flow with it. It's like carrying a heavy backpack for years, filled with all the labels, judgments, and stories about who we think we are. Then one day, you set it down, and suddenly, you feel lighter, freer. This is not about denying your existence. It's about discovering something deeper than the surface self. Beyond the roles, beyond the titles, beyond the masks, there is an awareness, a presence that's been with you since the beginning, and that presence is limitless. The Buddha often reminded us, clinging to the self is the root of suffering, but when the self fades, compassion naturally rises. Because if you are no longer tightly bound by me, you begin to see the same presence in others. You recognize that we are not separate. We are connected, like waves rising and falling on the same ocean. And here's the beautiful part. This isn't some distant spiritual ideal. You can taste it in simple moments. When you lose yourself in music, when you gaze at the night sky and forget, even for a moment, your worries. When you sit quietly and your thoughts fade and only the stillness remains. In those moments, the I disappears and what shines through is peace. So let me ask you this. What would your life feel like if you weren't trapped inside the walls of me and mine? The truth is, beyond the self is not nothingness. It's freedom. It's love. It's the space where true joy is born. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we've been searching for all along. 6. The simple happiness in silence. Have you ever noticed how noisy life really is? Not just the honking cars or the constant notifications buzzing on our phones, but the noise inside, that endless chatter of the mind. The to-do lists, the regrets, the worries, the what-ifs. For years, I thought silence would be boring. I imagined it as empty, lifeless, like being stuck in a room with nothing happening. But the Buddha taught something different. He reminded us that when the noise of the mind settles, what arises is not boredom, it's peace. It's joy in its most natural form. I didn't understand this at first, but then something happened that changed me. One morning, after a particularly exhausting week, I turned off my phone, sat down on my porch, and just breathed. At first, my mind resisted. It kept shouting, "You're wasting time. You should be working. You should be doing more." But slowly, something shifted. My breath grew deeper. My shoulders relaxed. The tightness in my chest softened. And in that stillness, I heard the sound of a bird singing nearby. It wasn't a special sound, nothing extraordinary. But in that moment, it felt like a gift. Pure, alive, untouched by worry. The sunlight on the leaves, the cool air brushing against my skin, the rhythm of my own heart. Everything felt simple. And in that simplicity, there was happiness. This is what silence offers us. Not emptiness, but fullness. A fullness we often miss because we're too busy chasing something more. The irony is, the happiness we spend our lives searching for is often waiting in the smallest, quietest places. Think about it. When was the last time you sat without your phone, without distraction, and just listened to the world around you? The Buddha once compared the mind to a lake. When the surface is disturbed, you cannot see clearly. But when the water becomes still, it reflects the sky, the trees, even your own face. Silence works the same way. It lets us see life as it truly is, clear, vivid, alive. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to go to a monastery or sit for hours in meditation to touch this joy. You can find it in everyday moments. When you pause to breathe before answering an email. When you walk slowly instead of rushing. When you sip your morning coffee, and for once, just taste it without planning the rest of your day. These small pauses are not wasted time. They are medicine. They are reminders that peace is not somewhere far away. It is right here, in the silence between two thoughts. And the more you practice touching that silence, the more you realize something profound. Happiness is not about adding more to your life. It's about noticing what's already here. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, try this. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and listen. Not for something grand, but for what's already around you, the hum of life that you usually overlook. Because in that quiet space, happiness isn't complicated. It's simple. It's gentle. It's alive in every breath, every ray of sunlight, every note of a bird's song. And when you discover that, you'll understand what the Buddha meant. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the doorway to truly living. Summary of key points and reflections. So, let's pause for a moment and reflect on the journey we've taken together today. We began with the realization that much of our suffering doesn't come from life itself, but from the endless commentary in our own minds. The Buddha called this the second arrow, the unnecessary pain we create when we replay, exaggerate, or resist what has already happened. Then, we learned that peace begins when we stop confusing ourselves with our thoughts. You are not the storm inside your head. You are the clear sky beyond it. We also discovered the beauty of a beginner's mind, that sense of wonder we lose as adults, but can reclaim by seeing life without judgment, as if for the very first time. We explored balance, remembering that thoughts aren't our enemy, they are tools. Just like a knife can prepare a meal or cause harm, our thoughts can guide us wisely or trap us in suffering. The middle way teaches us to use thinking skillfully without letting it rule us. And then we look deeper, beyond the boundaries of the self. When the grip of I, me, mine begins to soften, we glimpse something vast and freeing. Not emptiness in the scary sense, but freedom, a spacious awareness that holds everything. This is the taste of liberation. Finally, we return to the simplest truth of all. In silence, when the chatter quiets down, happiness doesn't disappear. It reveals itself. A deeper breath, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of a bird greeting the morning. These are not small things, they are the treasures of being alive. And what's the lesson woven through all of this? Buddhism doesn't ask us to erase thoughts or fight against the mind. It invites us to loosen our grip, to stop clinging, to see thoughts for what they are, passing clouds in a vast sky. And in that letting go, we find something we've been searching for all along. Peace, freedom, and a happiness that doesn't depend on anything outside of us. So, I want to ask you, which part of today's journey touched your heart the most? Was it realizing you are not your thoughts? Was it remembering the joy of seeing the world with fresh eyes? Or was it the quiet happiness that comes when the mind finally rests? If someone you love is struggling with the noise of their own mind, maybe they need this reminder too. Share this video with them, gently, as an offering of peace. And if this message resonated with you, I'd be truly grateful if you left a comment below. Tell me which teaching from today spoke to your soul. Your words might be the light someone else needs to hear. If you'd like more wisdom like this, consider subscribing to Buddha Wisdom, not as an obligation, but as a way to keep nourishing your heart with teachings that bring calm, clarity, and strength. Thank you, truly, for spending this time with me, and for staying until the very end. It means more than you know. May you carry with you the gift of silence, the strength of balance, and the joy of seeing life freshly, like a child. And as you step into the rest of your day, may peace be your companion, and may happiness, the simple, quiet kind, always find its way back to you. Until we meet again, take care, breathe deeply, and remember, the stillness you seek is already within you.